Please welcome to the stage, Shahara Downing, co-founder and Chief Visionary Officer of Speakhouse. Moderated by Lauren Hudson, Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer at Comcast Cable.
Good day, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to You Have to Be Twice as Good. And I am so pleased to be here with Shahara Downing, speaker from Speaker's Chief Diversity Office, Speakhouse. So we are going to have a fantastic conversation today, and we are really, truly looking forward to your participation too. So please use the chat as much as you can, providing us comments or questions, because we're going to incorporate you into our conversation as much as possible. So let me give a warm introduction to Shahara and let you know a little bit more about her really quickly, because I want to make sure we have a lot of time for conversation. If you've ever heard her speak, you have likely been captivated by her exquisite ability to connect and listen. She loves exploring concepts with authenticity, identity, culture, and how they intersect with communication and business. I actually had the opportunity last week to speak with her just for a short 30 minutes, and I left inspired, innovated. We had such a breathtaking conversation. I can't wait to have that more deeper conversation today. So Shahara Downing is a co-founder and chief visionary officer of Speakhouse, which offers on-demand leadership communication coaching and training for your entire team. The mission is to make it easier for people in the business to confidently share their voices with the world. She and her team make communicating coaching accessible, scalable, and practical. And I know one that many leaders find very, very valuable. With over 16 years of coaching and corporate training experience, Shahara has elevated the communication skills of leaders from companies such as Under Armour, Capital One, Toyota, AT&T, and so many more. She is a celebrated host and moderator. We were actually talking about how we have reversed roles today a little bit. So she's in the hot seat, and I get the joy of interviewing her. But she's so beautifully skilled at engaging audiences in conversation and helping leaders and speakers, and just really, truly adding so much benefit to your conversations. So without further ado, I'm going to start our conversation and really want to just welcome you again and just give you a second to say hello, and then I'll jump into a question.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Lauren, for that warm introduction. We had a conversation, as she said, and I'm really looking forward to extending that conversation to everyone that's listening. So throw your comments in the chat. We have people that are fielding those for us. We want to make this as much as a conversation as we can because, Lauren and I, we have good conversation on our own, but we want to make sure y'all are a part of this too.
Absolutely. So why don't we dive right in? And this kind of picks up to some of our conversation from last week. When I think about our careers, when I think about our colleagues, our family, and we talk about being Black in corporate America, there are some unspoken rules and levels of, engagement and things that we have to consider that some may not have to. Can you talk a little bit about those unspoken rules and navigating them?
Yeah. And it's funny because it makes me think about on social media when we see like embracing Black culture and they're sharing experiences that we all went through, right? Whether it's, experiences through church and being on the usher board and putting your finger up in one, to get out, or, what it's like visiting your grandmother and don't let my good air out the house. And it's like, how did we all have the same life? Right. And I believe that translates to these corporate rules. When we show up as Black and we start to evolve ourselves and grow ourselves as professionals, are they spoken directly to us? Perhaps, maybe we did have parents, aunts, uncles, or even mentors who were like, that's not going to roll. Or you need to make sure you watch out for this. But then sometimes they are unspoken. It's stuff that I feel like we just inherit. And, just to the audience, I want you to think about what are some of those unspoken rules of being Black in corporate America did you learn and find yourself adhering to? And now you have to second guess, is this going to help me or is this not? Lauren, which ones do you feel like you learned? What unspoken rules do you feel like you've learned?
So I guess for the two that I think about most frequently are, one is try to be in the room. Don't, especially during the time where, whether you could be hybrid or you could dial in, try to be in the room, because being in the room helps you uh, understand the audience, the speaker, and then you have that before and after engagement that is very helpful to people learning about you and hearing from you. The other thing I will tell you that I feel is that's been really helpful to me is tell my own story. Always be the voice that always be your own voice. Don't let someone else tell your story. And those have been the two that have helped me a great deal in my career. What
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, and I would say that that's amazing because those are very empowering rules that we should learn. Telling your own story, feeling confident and comfortable enough to tell your own story. But there are some where it's just like, well, one, what we're going to talk about today, how you have to be twice as good to get just as half, right? So we're going to dive into that one a little bit more. But I also feel like there's a rule of you just have to put your head down and work. Right? Like your work and what you produce is the proof of your pudding. And and you have to get those A's. You got to get those A's and B's. And then when you make it into college, you have to get that internship, or you have to get this. Like, you have to get these certain things. It's almost like even just getting a degree, right? I had a friend of mine in college who mentioned and talked about how getting your degree is really about getting those freedom papers. And they're like your degree is like the freedom paper to give you the choice to do what you want to do. Because if you don't have them, then you're immediately denied access. On top of already being Black, right? Put your head down and work. I think that's definitely one. Jeremy says not dressing a certain way, natural head. Oh, somebody was feeling me with the keep your head down and do the work, right? Keep your head down and do your work. I feel like is one of those things that we, of course, can't abandon. But when you get to a certain point in your career, your work should speak for itself, but unfortunately it doesn't, right? And I think that that's one that helps build us and build our resume and build our repertoire and build our portfolio. But at some point, that keep your head down, you're not seeing anything else. So I think that there are some of these unspoken rules. Don't let them know you're too educated, right? In essence, what they're trying to tell you, make sure they feel safe. And if we're trying to make sure that they feel safe, then an unspoken rule is we have to diminish our light, that we can't come in boldly, that we can't come in confidently. Oh, and that we have to be humble.
Yes, humble. Yes. Yep.
See? So they definitely, I think we all can say that these are some unspoken rules, but maybe perhaps some of them don't necessarily serve us.
Another one I as we were talking, and the Monday morning fog is lifting. The one that I hear, especially when it comes to Black women, is that you want to ensure that you don't offer your opinion too much and too assertively. And that is something where and then you have to balance, well, I want an opinion, like you need to have one. So it's between have an opinion, don't say it too much, and don't be too assertive, and don't say it with and I say this, don't be angry. Don't say it with too much, oomph behind it, because are you mad? Are you upset? No, none of those things.
Yeah. And that is so freaking confusing. Like how, and I make another mention to social media, but these filters, right? Like the filters that we have to turn off and turn on to protect and I'm just going to put it out there, white people, their comfort, right? And I put it out there, Lauren, because sometimes we be talking about them like the elephant in the room, but we do know that it is like we make these adjustments. That back and forth that you were saying, don't share your opinion too much, but don't be too passionate, because then that may be confused with being angry. And if we come across angry, now they don't feel, and it's like we're making all of these internal considerations for their comfort. And in the process, it's like we're losing aspects of ourselves. We're chipping away at what naturally shows up. And then when we practice chipping away at that or filtering it or putting it to the side, then here we are 20 years into the game, and it's become a habit for us to do that. And then we wonder why subconsciously we're feeling not seen, not felt, overlooked, you know?
Do you think that having these rules gives us a sense of protection or promoting it? Or what do you think these rules do to us?
You know,
What effect do they
I,
have on us?
and of course, it comes out of a necessity, right? We learn that if we are too bold, if we are too confident, if we're not operating in a space of humility, if we didn't get that next lead or project or push project, that it can be seen and held against us. So out of the necessity to thrive, we have to kind of circumvent our natural ability to thrive. And in a way, these unspoken rules: keep your head down, don't be angry. Somebody said be mindful of fragility. It's like, in a way, those things, they're meant to protect us, but they prevent us from showing up as ourselves. They prevent us from really feeling good about all this hard work we putting in.
There's a comment that said that's why we're exhausted.
Yes. Yes. And it's so subtle that we need these rules. We operate in these rules. We can't necessarily abandon these rules. But what space are we kind of creating for ourselves to feel, to operate, to exercise outside of these rules, so that we don't get so conditioned and so habitual that we continue to operate in spaces of exhaustion as well?
So why don't we take it back to the title? You have to be twice as good.
Yes.
How do you think that mantra shows up in our day to day? How's it woven in?
Yeah, and I like, I don't know about y'all, and we were talking about this before we jumped on, like a poll, one or two, right? So if y'all are listening, let me know. Number one, you have to be twice as good. Did you hear that specifically from someone? Like your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, a mentor? Did they literally say that to you? Can you remember when they said that to you? If you're that person that remembers somebody telling you, now you got to be twice as good. You got to put in 150%, 200% just to get your due, right? Put a 1 in the chat if you know specifically when you heard that or if you were told that. But then there's another group of people, where maybe you don't quite remember someone specifically telling you, but you just kind of knew. Put a 2 in the chat, just because I want to see. He said a lot of yeses. Somebody did tell you, right? And you have to be twice as good. That, I call it like a mantra, right? It's something that we've been taught, something that people tell us, something that we tell ourselves. And it's something where it's like we have to be twice as good. And so we start to operate from that space of, I got to do more, I got to work longer, I got to ask, like if I'm asked of something, a few 2s, but lots of 1s. Thank you, my community, my cousins out there. But that mantra is necessary because it's the freaking truth. But at the same time, I think that there's a point in our professional career where we have to start to detach ourselves from that being our mantra, because there's so many consequences to maintaining that. The endurance that's needed to maintain it, the time that's needed to maintain that, the emotional and intellectual capacity that's needed to maintain that. And it leads to things that show up in our day-to-day lives that don't make us as happy about the beautiful work that we do.
So when you think of being twice as good, and you think of the corporate world that many, not all, many of us are operating in today, How do you think that they relate to each other? Like the corporate meritocracy and being twice as good. How do they relate to each other?
So y'all have learned, got to be twice as good. And being twice as good means that your work has to be twice as good. You have to produce just as much, if not more. So now, like the fruits of your labor, you have all these gems, all these apples, and all of these accomplishments and all of these achievements. And they're just right here. Look at all that good stuff y'all been doing because you've been operating from a space of, I got to be twice as good. We're all overachievers, right? And then we also have been taught about merit-based type of promotion. Well, if you're good at what you do, you're just good at what you do. But we also know that that's a false statement, that all the work that I've been doing and all the effort that I've put in and all the wins and all the traction and all, how much I've done for this company, we know doesn't always equate to you getting that promotion, to you getting the title you deserve with the pay that you deserve too. Because sometimes they be handing out titles and give you the extra work, but they're not paying you, right? So the promotion, the respect, and that myth that success and promotion is based off of your merit, it doesn't work that way. And I think that that's a harsh reality and a harsh truth that we sometimes learn early on in our career, that just because of merit, just because of the work that you've put forth and the effort, doesn't mean that you're always going to reap the benefits, doesn't mean that you're always going to be rewarded, as you justly should. And then it really hits you in the heart when then somebody else who isn't as qualified and didn't do the work and really don't know what they're talking about then gets the promotion. Where's the merit in that? So we're setting ourselves up with this silent expectation that I am twice as good because I've been operating with that mantra of being twice as good. And then going into a corporate culture where they believe or they tout or they say that you can grow here based off of your hard work and merit. It's like it's a thing that it's a dead end at each point.
So those are things, these are symptoms of what happens when you occupy the space of being twice as good, right? Professionally, these are the things that how this can impact. Are there symptoms that we should all be looking for as we're navigating you have to be twice as good that you want to call out? And what are they?
Ooh-wee. Okay, so in the chat, and I'm gonna just see, because I know we all speak in the same language. If someone says bringing your authentic self feels like a farce, exactly. Someone said this is too good. So in the chat, if as we're kind of growing this, you've adopted this mentality of I have to be twice as good. And that really becomes the barometer for how you operate on a day-to-day basis. And to achieve for that, what's happening to you because you are working so hard to be twice as good? What's happening to y'all? Y'all start throwing them in the chat. Our production team, he says he's got quick fingers. So we're about to see how quick it gets. And Lauren, I do think that that's interesting that you ask it that way with symptoms, right? Because what are the consequences of this mantra? We know that we anticipate what should be the results of having that mantra, but we also then don't think about the side effects. It's like watching those medical commercials, and they say how it's going to heal you with all this other stuff, but then they talk real fast about then it's going to cause you
things.
Right. Someone said burnout, working too much. Amen. Anxiety. Amen. The fatigue. Y'all know the symptoms of adopting this mentality of you have to be twice as good, right? So we've got burnout, working too much, anxiety. Some of the other ones, like perfectionism, right? Always seeking to be perfect, which we know perfection does not exist. And so now we're reaching and striving for something that doesn't. We start to second guess ourselves. We start to undermine our own credibility because it isn't perfect. We start to undermine the quality of our work because it isn't perfect. Someone said sacrificing family. You're not spending time with them. You're not learning them. You're not connecting. You're not enjoying them. Someone says resentment. We be mad, y'all. We be so mad. And that energetically affects us. Never saying no, right? You feel like you always have to say yes when you'd rather say no. And then that causes overwhelm. That causes overworking, lack of self-care. Somebody said fear. Whoever said fear, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back, right? Because if we're operating in this space that we have to be twice as good, which leads to perfectionism, there's always going to be an impeding fear that we will fail. There's always going to be a fear that it's not going to be enough. There's always going to be a fear that I still have to work harder. And that fear, that can cannibalize us and make us less confident and make us feel like even the great things that we do just aren't good enough. Y'all got these symptoms. What other symptoms did I talk about? Y'all said it. Anxiety, overworking, yeah, all of that.
So we talked about a number of symptoms. Let's talk about how do we, understanding where we are, how do we move forward? Is there a way to escape corporate meritocracy? Is there something that we can all be doing?
Yes. And I was very particular when I wanted to make a bold statement about escaping corporate meritocracy. In the very literal sense, in the actual structural way that we have to physically show up to work on a day-to-day basis, the chances of escaping that meritocracy, I feel, are slim. You know, it's an unfortunate truth that that I feel like we operate in, or that I think Black people, we have so much hope. We have so much optimism. We are so resilient. And we always think that because of our work, things will continuously get better. But escaping it in total, I'm gonna just be honest, I don't think that that's gonna happen, right? We're Black, we're men, we're women, like it will get better. But I also, though, believe that because of our mindset and because of our perspective and the way that we have to see the world, we can see it differently, and changing our perspective on how we can escape the corporate meritocracy, and how we handle and how we navigate through all of the obstacles throughout it. And if I say that you have to be twice as good is a mantra, I feel that one of the most, I would say one of the most concrete steps that we can take and that we can exercise on a day-to-day basis to combat and to kind of reverse the habit of believing in that mantra and internalizing that mantra is to replace that mantra with something else, and to replace it with something that can combat the exhaustion, that can combat the fear, that can combat the anxiety, that can combat the burnout, the fatigue, that can allow you to start bringing in your authentic self. I'm going back to some of the things in the comments, right? So escaping it in total, that of many of the world issues that are upon us, I think that it will sort out in due time. But for our most immediate future, meaning today, tomorrow, next week, next quarter, I do believe that there's a perspective shift that we can make to heal ourselves and to really refuel and rejuvenate ourselves, to kind of attack it and navigate it in a way that doesn't feel like prison, that doesn't feel like a rat race.
So I love the words that you said. You said heal ourselves, help us navigate. How do we do that? What are some steps that we can take today, tomorrow, and for many of us, how do we prepare the future for many that will come after us? Because so many have cared for us to get to this point. But give us a little bit more around how do we heal and how do we navigate?
Okay, so this is where I know that y'all are probably taking notes, or you got a notepad, MLMS virtual. Y'all got a whole bunch of stuff that y'all gonna take away today, right? So I hope you're taking notes, not just here, but for the entire day. And after this is all done, y'all better go back to those notes next week, next month, and next quarter when you start to feel frustrated, right? Someone said, I can get 10 things right, but if I mess up one thing, I panic. And Olu, my boy, shout out. Olu Burrell is in the house. We endure by reframing. And that's exactly right. And so that reframe from you have to be twice as good is a very simple prompt that I share wherever I go. It's like the old lady with the spearmint candies, the peppermint candies in her purse. You always know she got one. This is my equivalent, and I share it wherever I go. And the prompt is, I'm proud to say. I'm proud to say. Because here you are with your head down, doing the work, getting twice as good, and you've amassed an impeccable resume, right? You have triumphed problems in your department, at your company, right? You have all of these amazing wins, achievements, accolades, milestones that you've now accumulated. And now it's time to honor those. It's time to speak on those. And this is where I said earlier, when you put your head down and work and you've been working twice as good, you naturally feel that your work should speak for itself. And to transition and to navigate with more ease in corporate meritocracy, it is not just allowing your work to speak for itself, but it's you speaking on behalf of your work. But how? How, Sway? So Sway does have the answers according to Kanye now. But how do you do that when you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable? When you have to walk in with humility? When you don't want to come across as too passionate, braggadocious? Who does she think she is? Right? And you want to be able to promote yourself and talk about all of this hard work and all these amazing things that you've accomplished. And we've created just this, not created it, but we've leveraged the prompt, I'm proud to say, as a way to, one, remind yourself. And I think, Lauren, we were talking about this on our call from Black Panther when T'Challa was, getting beat up by M'Baku. And then Queen Mother, she yelled out, remember who you are. The I'm proud to say, that prompt is Queen Mother yelling out to you saying, remember who you are. And now you say that to yourself. I'm proud to say that I just saved the company nearly $500,000 just last quarter. I'm proud to say that I was lead on a team that helped us reclaim a client that we were getting ready to lose. I'm proud to say that over the last, 18 months, I've managed a team that was dealing with a lot of, turnaround, right? So now you're reminding yourself, however, now you reminding them people too. So when y'all get on these Zoom calls, and at the beginning of the Zoom call, y'all sitting around looking awkward at each other. And then someone says, well, hey, Tanisha, it'd be crazy if it's Tanisha in the room. Hey, Tanisha, how's everything been going? We haven't talked. Don't say, oh, everything's been good. Yeah, no, great. That, And the reason why we do that is because we've been taught about humility. We've been taught to, just be pleasant, all that other good stuff. Instead, say, you know what, Jim? I'm actually proud to say. And then you share what that is. Now, Jim didn't have to find out about your achievement or your accolade or your win from someone else. Jim found out from you. Now you're giving your work, your achievements, your accolades, all that, being guided by you have to be twice as good, all that being guided by put your head down and work. Now you have to pronounce and promote your own achievements. The proof in your pudding.
So you and I were talking about this last week. This is one of the things that we're doing as an organization, where we're saying own your career by telling your story and not waiting for a leader to tap you on the shoulder to say, apply to this or sign up for that. You need to tell your story so that we understand where you want to go and what you want to do. and then help us help you open the doors or create the pathways forward. But what I hear sometimes is, and unfortunately from people of color, is that, well, no one told me to apply. No one said the opportunity was there. And I'm like, you need to apply. You need to make sure that the opportunity is there, and you need to use the tools that are available so that that can happen. Because if you wait, it's not, all the stars may not align, right? And so if you own it, and you tell your story, and you tell us where you want to go and what you want to do, we can help there. We can absolutely help there. And we're trying to eliminate those ways that can happen by making sure positions are posted and things of that nature. But to your point, you have to own it. Someone's not going to look over and say, please apply to this. It may happen sometimes.
Yeah.
But if we own it, I think it just the progress that we will make together. And if we care for each other in owning that, by the way,
yeah,
we care for each other, understanding that the spotlight is big enough for all of us. When one of us makes it, we have to lift everyone up around us.
Yeah. And you said it just right, like telling our story, right? But a lot of times we don't tell our story because of, we've got our personal selves and we've got our professional selves. And I can't let these people know about me, right? But we're suppressing ourselves, that authenticity. And we also do understand the challenges that we have and that we face in being transparent about who we are. But telling your story is very important. And that's how people understand you. That's how you build your brand. That's how you build your reputation. That's what you're giving them to then share with other people. I learned even just being, a facilitator with ELC and being a part of the programming, managers, directors, VPs, leaders, they learn in sound bites. What sound bite of your story are you telling today? And if you're concerned about how to tell that little sound bite, you know what? I'm proud to say, I am so proud to say, and it could be something personal too. I just shared with Lauren today. I am proud to say that I am training for a fitness competition. And when I come to MLMS in person in DC, I am going to have to pack all my chicken and my turkey.
Where Lauren's face was like, oh my goodness. I'm so proud of you, and let's share your secrets. But and by the way, I was very proud of you. Yeah, it was such a moment of connection, because it brought us, it was a linkage that brought us together that we didn't have before. By you saying that you were proud of, I leaned in a little bit more to learn a little bit more about you.
And ding, 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 y'all. That's how the proud, we at Speak House, we call it our Proud Talk framework. And it's how you can talk about and share your achievements, your accolades, your wins, your milestones in conversational storytelling. We hear about storytelling, we think about keynotes, running a meeting, sitting on a panel, whatever, right? But what about those everyday encounters at a conference, at a networking event, introducing yourself, right? So there's a lot that happens when you even just take this small prompt. I am proud to say it creates connection between whoever you're talking to, whether you're sharing something personal or you're sharing something professional. It reminds you of who you are. It reconnects you to the aspects of yourself that are lost, that are chipped away and filtered when you show up and try to operate in these unspoken rules. When you say, I'm proud to say, people are learning something about you. And somebody said, I feel like when I annoy people, and so what? We got room to annoy people because they mad anyways. They gonna be mad and they gonna be annoyed because you thebomb.com anyways. So people say it all the time, don't dim your light. But, if you find that you annoy people, don't worry about that first and foremost. But then, share it in a way where it's like, I'm really proud to say, and we say this about the people around us. I'm really proud of you for that. I'm really proud of this person. I'm really proud. you know, put yourself in that conversation too. It's a lot of power with that.
And I do hear, so to the comment of, I feel like I annoy people, I do hear that agree. How do I find balance in telling my story so that people can hear it and receive it, but not so I'm like continuously over and over trying to prove to you why I'm here and why you selected the right person or why you need to invest in me. What are some tips that you could give that helps find that balance in those conversations?
And it happens in real time. So if starting today, my MLMS virtual cousins out there, if starting today, you have this prompt, I'm proud to say, when you enter back into your work week and y'all have the Zoom meeting or the meeting or you're having a conversation, if it just recently happened a week or two ago, 3 weeks ago, if it just happened and you hadn't talked to them about it yet, then share it. This is breaking news, like it just happened. Now, when you see that person again, maybe perhaps you don't have anything, you're just like, oh, I just saw you 2 weeks ago, then you won't have anything to share. But then maybe a month from then, maybe something else has transpired. It's really keeping people updated and informed about all the good things that are happening. And most times too, when you share these moments, they're also connected to wins that are being made for the company. So use your discretion, but I would also say that because we don't do it enough anyways, we have room. Even if you feel like you're annoying, you ain't even that annoying, right? Like on a scale, this is the most annoying and we're down here. Even if you feel like you're right here, you still got a lot of room. Like you got a lot of room before you're annoying. Trust that, because we know we don't do it enough because we filter ourselves so much.
The other thing too that I have found, because sometimes I was meeting with our co-ops, our young adults who join us every year, and I was doing the I am so proud to say kind of conversation, and then someone said, "Well, Lauren, tell us a little bit about being a mother," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's my proudest thing I'm about to say." And but so in my mind, what I try to do, and sometimes I fall short of it, is weave in the I'm proud to say as a professional and I'm proud to say as a person, because there are things that people like to connect to. And generally what that does, especially in audiences that aren't diverse, it gives them a little opportunity to learn. I was proud to say Sunday is my favorite day because it's hair day in my house, right? And I get to spend the afternoon with both of my girls watching TV or whatever it may be, talking, but it's our day. And and for someone to say, well, what does hair day mean? Does everybody have a hair day? I don't know. Sunday was our hair day with growing up too. So it gives a little bit of time for people to learn about you and about our culture or about things that happen to you personally that can benefit them, that they should know, and you, because it connects them a little bit more to you.
Yeah. And I think that we always do. We kind of move in a space where it's just like, is this appropriate here? Is that appropriate here? And when you start to do that, you are compromising your authenticity. And trust me, Black people, I know we always got to think twice as much. We got to take in an extra consideration. We just can't always have the freedom or the peace, or as they say, psychological safety, to just speak from our heart. But in order to reverse some of these symptoms, the anxiety, the perfectionism, the burnout, the feeling, just not your authentic self, we have to be courageous enough to try it again, because what's at stake is your well-being, is your peace of mind, is your joy. And you can only go so long operating by holding back and filtering, and saying, this is going to be too much, or I don't know if I'm going to share. If you want to share, like Lauren, she's a big wig at Comcast, like, do I really need to be telling her that I'm training for a fitness competition? Whatever. Yeah. That's what's happening in my life right now. maybe she'll find that interesting. I don't know. Maybe she'll.
And I absolutely did, right? I absolutely did.
You got a shout out, Lauren from Victoria, Boston.
Oh, Vicki Boston. She's a thank you, first of all, thank you, Vicki Boston. She is a tried and true. She is a phenomenal leader at Comcast who supports so much of our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And we're better company for having her as a leader. So thank you so much for that.
Bad. There's a lot of love going on in the chat. Oh, I love the love, cousins. And that's something else that we can do that we learn. And I think you mentioned that how we support each other and how we bring each other up is being able to edify other people. And if you're not in the space of edifying yourself, then edify someone else who's not there. You saw what they did. You saw how they overcame. You saw what the result was. And just say, you know what, so-and-so isn't here today, but I just want to say, I want to toot her horn. Like, I'm really proud to say that so-and-so did ... And not only will that elevate whoever you're edifying, but it also says a lot about you to share your stage, share your voice, your moment, your authority, and your influence. You want to know how to grow influence, y'all? Is that's a way of growing your influence. Highlighting other people. Oh, I have some fitness people in the chat. What's good, fitness people? I've been counting my macros, okay?
I mean, that meal plan prep, I was impressed. Impressed.
All I really want to eat are croissants and Rice Krispie treats and donuts right now.
You have a goal. You have a goal and you're working towards it.
I do.
So I know we only have a couple more minutes. Are there any questions that we didn't get to that you want to pop into chat before we wrap? Don't hold back. This is your time. This is absolutely your time.
And as those questions come in, I just really want to kind of underline what this is about. You have to be twice as good. We've got this thing where we're in this rat race of, excelling in corporate meritocracy. We've got these things, these unspoken rules, put your head down, get the work done. And really we're suffering because of these. And we've got these symptoms that we all talked about. So we have to be intentional about how we combat that. We have to be intentional about how we break our habits that don't serve us. And using the I'm proud prompt can help you little bit by little bit get into a space where you're releasing that perfectionism, where you're easing your anxiety, where you are revealing more of yourself and becoming more authentic, where you're promoting your work, you're sharing your work, you're not allowing your work just to speak for itself. So I just want to be very clear as to that is your call to action. Go out, have these conversations, and then say, you know what, I'm proud to say. So
as we close, because it looks like all you're getting is praise, not all you're getting, you are getting praise and support and thank yous. And I will close us with, I am proud to say that I had the opportunity to spend 45 minutes with you and the wonderful leaders who joined vMLMS today to talk about this just utterly important topic. And that your call to action of act with intention in all aspects of your life is so important for us, so important. So Shahara, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and how we can all achieve success and being proud of what we deliver each and every day. And I can't wait to see you in person this week. And thanks again so much for the conversation.
Thank you.